Not recording?
I'm recording now.
Oh, it wasn't recording?
No, don't worry about it. It's okay. So you managed to speak with some of the people here. Who did you get to speak
Well,
to?
first of all, I recorded for the first 3 hours of the sessions this morning, and then I was nabbed by the organiser, Hugh Hunt.
Yeah.
He asked me to not record for the rest of the whole venue, the whole conference. So I said, yeah, I respected that, no problem. But anyhow, we've been trying to get a couple of interviews on the little breaks in between the sessions with Jim Haywood and David Keaton, all those guys.
So Jim Haywood, what's he do?
Jim Haywood is a aerosol research manager at the Met Office. Okay, and we asked him, would he mind doing an interview? He said, I says on camera, and he said, no, I won't do it on camera. He said, but I will do an interview. And I says, oh, come on, man, just do one for YouTube, come on, please. And he said, no, I don't want you to film me because you guys will just try to catch me out. He said,
catch you out.
Yeah.
So he's got something to hide then.
Yeah.
Or
Why would he say that?
Yeah, to get caught out. Yeah. So he could only get caught out if there was something he's hiding.
Yeah.
And because he's subjected to the Official Secrets Act, obviously they're secrets they have to protect.
Yeah.
So that's the UK Met Office, and the UK Met Office, they were doing experiments in Lynmouth in 1952 for weather modification called Operation Cumulus, and it all went wrong and they killed 35 people, and they denied it for 50 years until it became declassified. And so we know that they do things, quite serious operations where 35 people get killed because of their mistakes, and he's worried about being caught out.
Yeah.
That's interesting, okay. So who else have you got to speak with?
David Keith, got about 2 or 3 minutes with him. Just asked him about the sulfuric acid that he plans on releasing.
Yeah.
About his plans that he was talking about on the Colbert show. Yeah. Spraying millions of tons in the atmosphere. I read out a couple of health and safety data facts from the health and safety fact sheets about sulfuric acid.
Okay.
Just talking about how it can cause organ failure, skin irritation, blindness, and death. Yeah. So I was kind of saying to him, it's probably not a good idea to spray this stuff, man.
This is sulfuric acid we're talking about, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. And they only tend to build that layer up in the atmosphere.
Yeah. So he was quick to point out, well, he goes, he says, well, there's already sulfuric acid in the atmosphere. He says, there's 50 million tons of the stuff up there. It's one of the world's biggest killers. Yeah, whatever. If that's true, it's whatever, But I mean,
people
why
are getting killed anyway, so it doesn't matter to get a few more killed.
Yeah.
We can live with it. The risk is worth it.
Yeah.
It's okay, because I mean, how many do they really project would die from any changes due to global warming? I mean, I don't really hear them ever talking about the option to ride it out and we'll just adapt.
Yeah.
I don't really ever see them looking at that as an option.
Yeah.
It's always...
Or they don't talk about how warm is good. They don't talk about humanity flourishing in warm periods.
Like we did in the past, like in the medieval warm period or the Roman age or the Egyptian age.
It's ridiculous.
And they never talk about that. And it's a strange thing, because if it was warmer, there's more CO2, plants will grow better. Yeah. Right? So we don't need to have weed killer, and we don't need to have GMO foods, because organic food will grow much better.
CO2 is good. I mean, big agricultural organisations use, in green tunnels, they use the CO2 generators. They need more CO2 because the atmosphere is currently starving from lack of CO2.
Yeah.
We're at a very low level of CO2 in the earth.
No, apparently we're at a very high level, according to
Yeah, I know, but it's only 400 parts per million, which is very low. Yeah. It's dangerously low, apparently, according to some of the top scientists.
Well, I talked to Jim Haywood myself as well, and I happened to be talking about contrails being used for weather modification, paper from 1970, and he was interested in that, but he said, did you look at the IPCC report on aircraft and their effect on the climate, saying it's very, very minuscule. Well, I said to him, well, hang on a moment, all the clouds that I see on a daily basis, I said, how many times do you think I should see a contrail? And he said, it could be quite common these days. And I said, well, I did a photo set of 4 years of pictures every single day, on average 300 days a year we see contrails. And he was like, that does sound like quite a lot, actually. And it's like, well, hang on a minute, it's making clouds, it's blocking out the sun, it's affecting the climate, it's seeding other clouds below it. when the crystals
Jim
fall.
Haywood actually to admit, to acknowledge that the contrails are actually changing the climate. We were talking about NASA images, myself and Harry, that we see on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Not only the observational evidence when we look up from the ground, but when we look
down
at
with
NASA.
the satellite. Yeah.
It's just like, man, there's just like the whole of Europe is blocked out some days with trails, only trails, nothing else, no natural cloud. So I explained this to Nick Haywood, Jim Haywood, and he acknowledged that, and he says, yeah, well, they are changing the climate, So I says, well, look at, let's say that it is innocuous water vapor that's coming out of these planes, whatever, say it's water vapor. I says, we've got a big problem here because this stuff is blocking out the sun already. So therefore, we would have to acknowledge the fact that solar radiation management is already taking place, whether it's intentional or unintentional. It's still taking place. But they will say that these programs are only proposed for the future. That they deny that they're going on, but they're going on every day. It's just ridiculous to say that.
When's the last time we had a cloudless day?
I don't remember. I made a video on my YouTube channel, 365 days of climate engineering over UK and Ireland. Not one clear day. Every day, trails, HARP activity, EMF frequencies, it's crazy. Every day, the climate is just engineered every day, and you can see it. It's as plain as the bloody nose on our face, man. But it's just deny with these people in here, man.
Exactly.
It's just, they are paid liars. They are good at what they do. They're brilliant at what they do. Do you know? Some of them are well-meaning. A lot of them are psychopathic. We've seen a lot of them in action. You know.
Well, the thing is, the types of changes they're ultimately talking about bringing in is going to be it will totally transform the whole planet. You know, the way society will have to live to adapt to the changes to a carbon zero society. It has phenomenal change. You imagine a carbon zero society means no wood burning, no car driving, no bus riding unless it's electric or something like this. And how do you get the electricity? Is that from a carbon source? So they're going to get rid of all carbon.
They're going to sequester it all. Dave Key is going to have the right to the bloody carbon dioxide on the planet. He's going to own it all or whatever. And then it gets it below 150 parts per million. That's the end of life on Earth, you know.
Because plants need it. It's a vital thing. And they're demonising it, trying to make it out to be a pollutant.
They have to demonise everything. They demonise all things good, man. They invert reality, man. They demonise all things good, and that's just ridiculous. They just bend reality. They say left is right and up is down and black is white, man. They just deny, and that's how they're getting away with it. But I don't think they're as comfortable as they used to be.
No.
No,
I think that they're definitely getting agitated. I tried to speak to Ken Caldera. I asked him, Ken, can we have a moment to discuss our concerns? Can we actually have a discussion about this? And he reacted in a very erratic way. He was like, no, I'm not speaking to you. You called me a liar or whatever, which I hadn't. I said, I think you might be confused. I haven't done that. And then he basically backtracked a little bit, apologised to me for being so irate with me. And then afterwards, I said, well, you know, it would be a great idea if we could actually put our cards on the table and let's meet halfway and try and allay our fears, you know, and let's work through this. And he said, no, I'm not talking to any chemtrailers anymore. He started to say how he's been threatened and stuff like that. And I think that they're feeling the pressure. And it's not just the pressure of people feeling passionate about this, it's the fact we're doing our research and we're getting closer and closer to revealing that maybe the weather and climate modification programs of the 60s, which were quite widely developed when you had President JFK talking about let's do climate, let's control the weather, basically. And Lyndon Johnson and Eisenhower, they all said let's control the weather. So those programs didn't just disappear, they didn't stop, but they did change a little bit when the NMOD treaty came in. And now the focus is on controlling the weather. They call it climate intervention or climate engineering or geoengineering, but in response for a reasonable problem, which is the anthropogenic global warming scare. But it's still the same program about controlling the weather and the climate. And what do you get if you control the weather and climate? You control the hydrological cycles, you control water supply to nations, you control food supplies, seeds. And then you control nations and you control all people. So the closer we get to the realisation of what it's all about, the bigger picture, moving it on to Agenda 21, sustainable development, and the control of the corporations with the public partnership, public-private partnership, they're getting nervous because they can see we know what the end game is. And I think that's what's really got them, because they're a part of it.
And I think, you know, why is weather modification so secretive? You know, like there's hundreds of companies, as you know, that are in business daily, like,
the Beijing Olympics. You know, we won't have it raining on our Beijing Olympics because we'll do geoengineer the sky.
Why are people only finding out about this stuff in the last few years? I never heard about. You know,
it's been kept secretive.
I never knew that it was possible for mankind to manipulate the weather until about 5 years ago. Never heard the like of it. Why didn't I hear that ever, man? No. You know, I used to look at TV all the time. You know, I was, you know, pretty worldly. I would have known what's going on. You know, but why is it so secretive? You know, why all the secrecy? They've been doing this, man. You know, you've talked about this stuff before. Like in the Napoleonic Wars and all, they realised that there was heavy deluges of rain falling after all the
particles, all the sulfur particles from the explosions.
Same in the American Civil War. Same thing was reported. And you know, so
they've been developing it big time, and they were doing it during the Second World War. I found out now they've been doing it during the Second World War.
You know, exactly. 72. The Bavarian Academy of Sciences.
1772,
offered a prize for the best ideas on how to modify the weather. That's how long this goal to control the weather is. So it's ridiculous. I mean, these guys to say. I mean, Alan Robock at the Berlin conference said that rain making is not possible. Artificial rain enhancement is not possible.
It's nonsense. That's why they had the NMOD treaty, because they realised they could. With Project Popeye, they extended the monsoon season by up to 60 days. And when that first came out and they addressed it in Congress, they totally denied there was any programme, and it wasn't until a serious whistleblower from the programme came forward and the pressure from Senator Claiborne Pell. Without that kind of pressure, they still would have denied it was going on, but it got blown up and blown out of, you know, the lies were blown out. So they had to respond, and the Russians put pressure on them to have the NMOD treaty, the Environmental Modification Treaty, which prohibits the use of weather modification as a weapon, but it doesn't prohibit weather modification for domestic purposes or even for commercial purposes.
That's their loophole, isn't it? Because it's a very deceptive treaty. You know, people just looking at it think, this means this is the end of weather modification. We can all just go back to sleep now. But that wasn't the case.
No, but it did go quiet, and it started to change and shift from weather and climate control into climate engineering or climate problems, developing the problem, let's set up the IPCC, let's generate this whole thing that there's a CO2 issue creating warming, let's focus on that, and then we can use weather and climate modification control methods again that we were developing earlier, but for a legitimate reason. Now the reason is to save the world, because many people wouldn't have wanted this before, because there'd be winners and losers, and who's controlling it, who's the one that's got the finger on the pulse, who's the one that's going to say, okay, we'll control your weather today, or you know, because if you control the weather in one location by proxy, you're going to affect the weather in another location. And that was said by Edward Teller in 1958, saying that it now seems clear that we can control the weather, and the concern is if you control the weather in one location, you will affect it somewhere else.
But these guys will argue, these climate scientists will argue that weather modification does not affect the global climate. But I mean, that's ridiculous.
What is going on all over the globe?
One weather modification program, even one weather modification is going to have a butterfly effect on the other side of the world. But that's only one. But there's hundreds going on every day. So the climate has been engineered. Whether they want to,
if they want to agree to that, if they would like to admit that, don't they? So it doesn't work. So we won't even include that in our models. But you know why they can't include it in the models? Because there are so many different programs going on all the time. You couldn't reliably input the data.
I asked Jim Haywood actually that. I said, can you detect from the Met Office supercomputer, can you detect what's natural and what's unnatural weather? Can you differentiate between the two? And he said, well, no, we don't pick up weather modification programs. And I said, so that means that you don't include it in your weather forecasting models? And he said, no.
Well, it's wide scale. There are 42 nations, according to the World Meteorological Organization from the United Nations. 42 nations with full-time weather modification programs. Plus, many other nations have maybe not full-time weather modifications. Plus, they don't even include all the commercial activity, and it's countless. So we've just got a couple of minutes left. Should we wrap it up there, and hopefully we'll get maybe when I was speaking with David Keith 3 weeks ago in San Francisco, I asked him for a public roundtable discussion, and he agreed at that time. But judging by the reaction we're getting from them here, maybe he won't be so forthcoming.
Well, one of the guys there, a friend of his, just there was telling us later on as the time, you know, a couple of drinks, maybe have a quick chat. He might loosen up and divulge something to us or whatever.
Well, what we're interested in is like the weather modification and climate modification may be going on, and in a nutshell, that's climate engineering.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it may be creating a problem, exacerbating problems, or it may be being used for nefarious activities to create this one world government system, globalization, global response, global governance, and all that. And the thing is, ultimately, what are those plans, where they're going to lead? It's not a nice place. No. We don't like it. We don't want to be. And the question is, does he want it? Yeah. Does he know where it's going? Does he want that?
Does he want to live in a world? 8 seconds. Does he want to live in a world with sulfuric acid raining down? And he says no. He says